Welcome to Cord Cutting This Week, the podcast, episode number 6, recorded June 3rd, 2019. This is the show where we dive into some of the biggest stories from the past week in the world of cord cutting in a lot more depth than we typically can. Once again, Jess is here. We're to break down everything with me. So, Jess, how was your week?
My week was good. My weekend was boring, just the way I like it. Having a good morning, but your morning has been a little crazy, hasn't it?
Nothing like a flat tire on a Monday to get a week started. I will say, not sponsored, but big props to Discount Tire. I bought the tires there, showed up. They did a rotation and a fix, 100% free since I paid for the tires there. So, hey, thanks, Discount. Well, let's get into it because there's a lot happening. But before we do, we were recording this because I have to travel tomorrow for a kind of a half family vacation where I'm working, but maybe not working as much. But WWDC, Apple's event, is happening today. Later today, we'll be live blogging it, but that will have happened after we posted this on YouTube and on all the different platforms. So if you're looking for actual, like, what Apple announced, I'm not expecting too much cord cutting news, but we are expecting some Apple TV news, some iTunes news, and we'll get to that in a minute. On YouTube, I would have already posted a full breakdown of our thoughts about the Apple event. Of course, over at cordcuttersnews.com, we'll have a live blog kind of going like we did for the Disney event, where we'll break down the biggest cord cutting news with that. So if you are looking for what happened at the Apple event, we'll be back next week with a full in-depth look. But of course, you can always watch our video on YouTube, youtube.com/cordcuttersnews, if you're looking for that right now. Well, before we do that real quick, anything you're excited for, since we can get these predictions in and then people already know if we got them wrong?
Ooh. Kind of funny that we're sort of talking to ourselves in the future. I, like you said, not expecting a whole lot from this. I think that they have a lot of stuff to cover, and I'm not sure how much of it is going to be relevant to us. But like you said, later on, we're going to talk a little bit about Amazon taking away the iTunes social media. So I think that they will obviously have to at least address that. So I'm interested to see how they talk about it and what their plans are for those standalone apps.
Yeah, of course, iTunes has long been rumored to retire. We'll cover that in a second. And I'm kind of sounds like it's more likely than not going to happen. A new Apple TV OS, not expecting a lot there. It would be nice to get a tiny bit more details about the new Apple TV Plus service. Not expecting them to lay out the red carpet and everything. The biggest news they may announce would be the price, which they're facing a lot of pressure on thanks to Disney at $6.99 and Hulu at $5.99 and Viacom going the free route. And we even have heard that NBC News will be cutting back on or cutting the price from what they wanted to charge to a cheaper version of it. So we'll have to wait and see. But I don't know. I'm not expecting earth-shaking cord cutting news. I think we'll learn more this fall about the new service. I think the rumored new Apple TV won't be announced this week. It'll probably be in the fall like Apple typically does. So that's my thoughts. I'm cautiously hoping we'll get some news, but for now we won't.
Yep, agreed. I would love it if they talked about a new device. I'm moving soon and would love to get a new one. If they would announce it, I would maybe hold off on upgrading until that happens.
All right, so let's dive into the news, and which is a perfect segue because our first story is Apple will reportedly be retiring iTunes, and seemingly confirmed it over the weekend when they completely wiped their social media for iTunes. The Instagram and the Facebook, all the posts were deleted. Now the accounts are still there, just all the content's gone. This is very typical Apple to delete it, though it kind of feel like somebody used an automated system and they meant to do it today and not yesterday. When that happens a lot with it. So we'll have to wait and see, but not surprised. It's been rumored for years now that Apple wanted to get away from iTunes as a massive app. I talked about this in the podcast or the daily cord cutting today on Monday. I think that part of this has to do with Apple TV Plus. Yeah. Trying to shoehorn Apple TV Plus into iTunes on Mac really limits what they can do with that. breaking out the different apps and podcasts and TV shows and movies and music and all into different ones makes it a lot easier for them to get a more compelling app for Apple TV Plus. Now, one of the things a lot of people have been concerned about was, what does this mean for my content? Nothing. Yeah. All of it should just move over to the new app. They're not removing functionality, so you probably have a backup sync app for your phone. Your movies will go to the TV movie app. Your music will go to the music app. Your podcast will go to the podcast app, etc. I think the difference here is, are you going to be happy having 5 different apps versus just one? And you're a Mac user. I have Apple products, but it's not my everyday one. So just how excited are you for 5, 6 different apps?
Not very. I've gotten very used to using iTunes, and I'm not excited about needing a different app for all of my things. I love that I have podcasts, audiobooks, music, everything just right in one. That makes it much easier for me. I really like iTunes. And something else I wanted to talk about, I went into the comments on this story that you posted about Apple wiping iTunes social media. And readers were concerned about, I made notes here. Readers were concerned, about all of their content switching over seamlessly. And that's something else that I hope they address in this event today. I hope that they just kind of reassure everybody that should be seamless, or how the whole process is going to go, because that's been the biggest concern, I think. The other thing is, a lot of readers were saying, oh, iTunes, that's irrelevant. No one uses iTunes anymore. And just because there are so many other options now for listening to music and things. But I use iTunes. I think a lot of us still do. And maybe I'm just like the old fogey that still likes the thing that she's used to. But yeah, I like iTunes, and I like having everything together. So I won't love having a separate app for everything.
I can definitely see that. There is something nice about having an all-in-one app to do everything. iTunes has become extremely bloated, especially on Windows. For all of Steve Jobs, I always loved how he would get up there and bash the bloated nature of Windows and everything, and it'd be like, iTunes on Windows? Have we ever looked at that?
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, my big concern will be the Windows side. What does this mean for Windows users? We'll see. One of the things we do have to address is there was an Apple update to iTunes over the weekend. Everybody said, see, Luke, this is fake news. Apple's updating the app. In reality, Apple does that typically because they build in a little kill switch. And it's probably not really a kill switch as much as you're going to start getting pop-up reminders that are like, hey, iTunes is going away on X date. Go download or go install or switch over to whatever the process may be. Because it is going to reportedly be built into the next generation of a Mac OS. So it's not going to happen today. We're probably going to learn is going to happen, and there'll be like sometime this summer when Mac OS, whatever it is going to be, let me look at the story. 10.15 is what's rumored to be, rolls out. That is when iTunes would be theoretically shut down. So, or at least start the death watch for.
Yeah, so I guess just don't panic about losing any of your stuff. That's probably not going to happen. It can't hurt to back things up, but it seems like we're going to have some time for all of that to get sorted out.
No, please panic. No, I'm just kidding.
Send us all the emails about how panicked you are, too.
The reality is this is probably going to be a good thing. The downside is with all such changes, there's going to be growing pains. YouTube is rolling out a new creator side studio, and it's pretty cool. A lot of cool features. There's still some stuff that just doesn't work as well as the old version. And I expect the same thing with this. It'll be like, hey, there's some really cool new features in music and TV and the podcast app that are really great, but you're still going to find that times where it's like, this just doesn't work as well as it did with the older version. Eventually, like with the YouTube beta Creator Studio, they're saying, okay, we've discovered that these are lacking, and from the older version, we're bringing that old feature back or changing this or doing that. And we'll get there with Apple. Just understand, it can sometimes take a little while to get there.
Yeah, and I'll be figuring it out along with the rest of you, so you can expect me to be grumbling about it on the podcast, but then also offering solutions, hopefully, that can help us all.
Yeah, and it's kind of like the iOSification of Mac a little bit, isn't it? I mean, this is what we have on iOS is these standalone apps, not a iTunes on the iPad or iPhone, right?
Yeah, that's true. I think, we'll get used to it. I don't think it'll be a huge ordeal. I think that people are mostly just scared about losing their content, and that's not something that we should be worrying about.
Yeah, Apple, I would be shocked if there is any lost content. Apple is typically really good at that, so we'll wait and see.
Yep.
Well, let's keep going, because one of the questions we get asked most often is something I wanted to address today, and that is just what is the best live TV streaming service out there? I mean, right now, what is the best one?
Well, let me tell you the number one. Just kidding. The answer is really, it's personal preference. There's no one right service for everybody. And we get so many emails about this every week, and I totally understand. People really want our personal preference. They want our personal opinion. They want us to say, get this streaming service. This is number one. In reality, we can't say that because we don't know what you like to watch. We don't know what your preferences are. We don't know how many simultaneous streams you want. So what we do, our answer is always just personal preference, but here's a link where you can compare them.
And that is the tough thing with these, is it really is, because you could give me 10 channels, but let's say Animal Planet is in one of them. Well, how important is Animal Planet to you? Would you pay an extra $10 to get the Animal Planet or not? And that's kind of one of those things I always say when you get these services that will tell you, oh, you gave us these 10 channels, this is the one you should get. You should still do your own research. And we did post a new post over the weekend of the big chart of PlayStation Vue versus Sling versus YouTube TV, DirecTV Now, etc. And one of the reasons we have always just created this chart to be like, hey, here are the top 8 services with all the channels and all the apps, so you can do your own research and come up with what you think is the right one for you. Because I've discovered that people will make some compromises, especially when it comes down to something I wrote about a week ago, that if it's really about one show, right? If I just want to get BBC America because I want Doctor Who, right? The new Doctor Who episodes. Mm-hmm. Well, if that means I end up paying a lot more, maybe I'll just go get a season pass on iTunes or Amazon. Absolutely. Or whatever the new Apple TV app is called. So I would encourage you to do your research, to look at this and understand that there is no one service fits all. Because the reality is, I grew up in the Midwest. I'm a Big Ten football fan. Love Sling TV most of the year, but during football season, they don't have the Big Ten network. But flip that around for somebody who's a Pac-12 fan. Sling TV is one of the few services with the Pac-12 network. And they actually have a very good lineup of sports channels. They got all the ESPNs that have very good price, Fox Sports and so on, plus the Pac-12 network. So for many people, that may be the right one for them. So I would really, this is kind of just those arguments. Is Ford versus Chevy better and more? Is here's one that's going to date me. Super Nintendo versus Sega Genesis. Which one's better?
I had both, I won't lie.
If you grew up in the 90s, you probably spent a lot of time on the bus talking about that conversation. So I would strongly encourage you to just kind of be like, hey, in reality, pretty much everybody has ESPN, pretty much everybody has Fox Sports, pretty much everybody has MSNBC and NBC, all this stuff. It just comes down to really personal preference a lot. Mm-hmm. Do they have the locals in your market? Is that even important to you? Because maybe you have an antenna. So I would go from there. Because I've heard it from people too that, hey, I love Sling TV, but no locals. Or the flip side, somebody's like, hey, I love that Sling TV doesn't have locals because it's $15, $20 cheaper, and I have an antenna that gives me even more locals than YouTube TV would give me. So keep that all in mind. What would you... Oh, want to add something, Jess?
I was just going to say, my last thing to add, we were having a discussion about this on the Facebook page. Somebody was asking about the locals. I just wanted to remind you that on, I think, every streaming service website, there's a place where you can put in your zip code, and they'll tell you what locals you'll get. So it's not like you have to sign up and then look at your channel guide to find out. You can usually stick your zip code in there, and they'll give you a list.
And some, like even PlayStation View, offers that. Plus, on the home screen, they try to use your IP to detect roughly where you are and then show you the locals based on that. Not always accurate. DirecTV Now, for a long time, thought I lived like 3 hours away.
Yeah, I have to put in a new zip code every time, too.
So that was always fun, and going from there. And then just it's a ton of really what's important to you. And again, it is a little bit of a game. Is that one channel worth $10 to you? And, people say, oh, look, cord cutting isn't giving you everything you want. Well, yeah, you can, but is it worth it to you? That's the thing I think a lot of people forget in this. I remember G4. I used to enjoy G4, the old gaming network, and had fun with it. But when we moved, I kind of looked at all the options. I really wanted the Big Ten network. And it came down to Dish, because my local cable company didn't offer the Big Ten network. So it came down to Dish or DirecTV. And the Dish, the Big Ten network was in a much higher package. But with DirecTV, it was just in the package I wanted. And it came down G4 or Big Ten network. Well, the Big Ten network won for me. To me, it was worth saving that $20-some a month. And it worked out because a couple years later, G4 was a dead network. So it worked out pretty well. But just always keep that in mind. There's a balance with all this. And don't be afraid to say this is more important than that for you. All right, let's move on to the next story. AT&T has been consolidating a lot of the management within the company recently. They recently purchased Time Warner, renamed it to Warner Media, which is honestly something Time Warner probably should have done to avoid the confusion of Time Warner Cable and Time Warner, the media company. And we learned last week that they were combining the TBS, TNT, and True TV staff into one. And now we have learned that AT&T is rolling Otter Media, which includes things like Crunchyroll and VRV, which about a year ago they were a partial owner of. They since bought a majority control of it. I'm not sure if they're 100% owner, or maybe they just own a vast majority of it. We'll see. But what they've taken that CEO of Otter Media, rolled his entire team into Warner Media. So VRV, Crunchyroll, and all the other smaller streaming services are now all in Warner Media. And Tony, whose last name I'm not even going to try to pronounce, my apologies.
I think it's something like Gonsalves, which is my best friend's last name. That's the only reason I think I can pronounce it, I think.
I have a last name that everybody pronounces Booma when it's Bauma, so I almost just prefer not to try, but I'm not sure. But he is going to take over the streaming segment for all of Warner Media, which we'll get to in a second. And it gives basically a full-time Warner Media resources to places like Crunchyroll and VRV. I would assume the PR teams will combine and all that kind of stuff. Now, is this a confession, though, that maybe their streaming efforts weren't going that well? This new streaming service that's supposed to come out later this year had a whole team behind it. Their names are escaping me, but we had a team of people there building this. And now suddenly AT&T has said, never mind, Tony, you're up to bat. You're running VRV, you're running Crunchyroll. Both are reportedly doing well, especially with Crunchyroll probably being one of the larger anime services out there, with Funimation being the other one. Hey, guess what? Tag, you're it. So is this an admission that AT&T's having problems, or is this just a reshuffling, let's save some money and lay some people off?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure. That could go either way. I hadn't really thought about it that way. My thought was, this is really cool because Otter Media, I was looking it up just before we started recording, they have some really cool channels. You mentioned Crunchyroll, VRV, those are like anime, there's some gaming stuff in there, some tech content that looks really cool. They also have Rooster Teeth, which has, maybe some people haven't heard of, but they have some really good content. There's some really funny stuff in there. I like it. They have some good podcasts too. So I'm more just excited that some of these smaller services are now going to have a bigger platform. I think it could be a good move for Warner Media to get these guys, just because that might be another way that they can market themselves as sort of like being this bigger platform for very small niche services. So I'm kind of excited about it. What do you think?
A lot of people have a sour taste a little bit about Otter Media, especially since AT&T took over, because they've killed off a lot of stuff. Machinima was a massive YouTube channel, just massive conglomerate of both originally created content plus as a YouTube network, which are not really as big, but they used to be a really big thing in YouTube, where channels could join like Machinima and give Machinima a cut of their profit in return for access to monetization and a direct contact to YouTube. Now, YouTube has kind of bypassed that by bringing monetization to more people and bringing direct content to creators that hit a certain level of subscribers. But YouTube last year, looking at this, actually in February of this year, I apologize, last year when AT&T took over in February, one day Machinima, all the content was deleted. It was just gone off of YouTube. And a lot of people got upset about this because there was a lot of loved content now just gone. I'm sure there's people out there that backed up copies and stuff. But, this was kind of a kick for a lot of people that are like, hey, my content I created for Machinima is gone. So there's definitely people who are not big fans of Outer Media anymore. Flip side.
Yeah, understandable.
Yeah, flip side, Crunchyroll is a massively popular, well-loved streaming service that seems to be doing well under AT&T.
Yeah, something similar happened with Defy Media recently. They had a lot of, Clever was part of that. That was the big one, I think. There were a couple of, real big creators, and they all kind of branched out on their own and started making content, and then another company bought Clever, and I'm not sure which other ones. I'm wondering if something like that might happen. Like, now that they have this bigger platform, there's a chance that those content creators could come back, maybe.
We'll see what happens. The big question is how much energy is especially VRV, which has always been kind of an edge player there. How is this really successful? Are they really making money on this effort? With AT&T working on launching another streaming service, would VRV be a casualty of that? AT&T has had nothing against AT&T, but they have not hesitated to cancel well-loved streaming services because they may not be as profitable. The Turner Classic Movie streaming service, which name is escaping me, that was also with the other collection out there. Very well loved classic movies, reportedly doing well, but I guess not doing well enough because one day AT&T just pulled the plug on it after they bought it. So it'll be interesting to see what is left of Outer Media in 2 years from now.
Yeah, definitely. And I think both of us are probably more like team creator, just as content creators ourselves. We just want to see people succeed. So hopefully they can get the resources together to keep some of these content creators going.
I mean, and the reality is, I don't know what AT&T's contract is with a lot of these YouTubers who have partnered with Machinima, which are now under Outer Media. I mean, the reality is you don't really need that kind of stuff anymore. Just to be honest with you, many of the most popular channels nowadays are not part of a network anymore. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here.
Yeah.
All right, so what do you subscribe to Crunchyroll? If you're watching this on YouTube or you leave a comment on our website, let us know. Have you noticed any changes in Crunchyroll? I know they had their first price change since it ever launched, which is pretty impressive. It's been years and years without price change. You know my philosophy on that. It's impossible for a service to never have a price change unless they start offering less and less content. But do you use Crunchyroll since AT&T took over? Any changes? Happy, unhappy? Let us know. All right, next story of the day. Amazon wants to be your cell phone provider. According to Reuters, they have sources, and Reuters has a very good track record in this kind of stuff, that Amazon is reportedly interested in buying Boost Mobile as well as buying wireless spectrum to launch their own wireless service. From reports, Boost has been up for sale, kind of on and off the market for a little while. And that Amazon is looking at getting into the cellular market. Buying Boost will give them a customer base to go from. They are reportedly interested in buying wireless spectrum. Part of the deal with buying Boost will give Amazon 6 years of being able to use the T-Mobile network, which of course they could extend that contract at a later date, build up their network over the next 6 years. But we've learned that Amazon wants to launch satellites into space to have a space internet service, which this may be tied, I'll get to in a moment. And now they want to be your cell phone provider. So they want to sell you your toilet paper. They want you to have your TV controlled by a Fire TV, your smart home controlled by a Fire or a Echo, They want your home security be through Ring, and pretty much everything you could have one central billing option through Amazon. And I mean, heck, they've even been moving into some banking features a little bit. So my interesting thing here, I'm surprised no one's talked about, is the idea. So Amazon's looking to launch low Earth orbit satellites into space that will allow them to offer high-speed internet much faster than traditional satellites. We've talked about this past, much lower light, which results in better speeds and lower latency. Well, if they buy Boost, build it up over 6 years, launch these satellites over the 6 years, and now they're just offering phone service from the satellites in space. There's no reason they couldn't do that. Which again, power outages, weather and stuff wouldn't necessarily affect that. Your cell phone service would continue in a natural disaster. The flip side of this is the Department of Justice has said they're interested in approving the T-Mobile Sprint merger if there's a fourth serious competitor to the current carriers. Now, Amazon wouldn't be a serious competitor day one, but they probably would be in a few years. So I'm actually excited about this cautiously. I don't think I would switch, but I do like the idea of more competition in the market. I don't know, Jess, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm with you. Cautiously optimistic, I think, is exactly how I would describe myself, too. I think something that I like about it, and I say this all the time, but a lot of my family is from a small town, and I'm thinking about them specifically, where it could be great to have just another option. I actually went into the comments on this blog post also, and some people are making really good points that they only have one provider in their area where they can get cell phone reception. So just to have another option for places like that would be awesome. So if that would work out, that would be really cool if it were an affordable, accessible option for those people.
Even if day one the network isn't there yet, it sounds like Amazon's got a mission plan here.
Yeah.
But just to bring in the Amazon customer service experience, T-Mobile's been really pressing that. But it only having T-Mobile press it against AT&T, Verizon is not really maybe enough. Bringing in Sprint into T-Mobile, make them bigger will help there. Add in an Amazon, which, like them or not, they are known for good customer service. And that could put pressure on Verizon and AT&T. That's just the reality. They're the dominant two players. I know there's a host of smaller resellers. I used to use the Walmart, Simple, whatever. The Walmart phone service, very happy with it. Just needed the hotspot data, which they weren't offering at the time. So I think this is exciting. But all those small ones are just using Verizon, T-Mobile, and AT&T networks, basically. So
yeah, some other people in the comments made some good points that this could potentially help these companies all become more innovative, because there are only a couple of big companies right now that they're just sort of like fighting against each other. But if another player would come in, that could really do a lot to make them all, just kind of spur them all to make more innovative moves.
Yeah, so we'll keep an eye on this. The thing I'm mostly excited about this is the pressure in Amazon customer service experience will bring. Because I have found people will take a substandard product or maybe a slightly higher price if the customer service experience is far better.
Yeah.
Which is something Southwest has kind of banked its game on, right? Hey, we're definitely not as comfortable of a seat. We don't offer first class. We're not offering food service like American and Delta and all this other stuff. But hey, the price is good and the customer service is pretty good. Not perfect. Nothing's ever going to be perfect, but I've been on airlines that are a whole lot worse than Southwest out there.
Agreed.
So I'll be interested to see what happens here. Any last thoughts on this?
Yeah, actually, my favorite comment on the blog for this post, somebody said, yeah, if you make my cell phone service free with Prime, I'll sign right up.
Can't guarantee free with Prime. I could see like some type of bundle deal.
Absolutely.
Wouldn't be at all surprise me to see Apple bundling, or Apple do it too, but Amazon bundling stuff together. All right, let's keep going with the next stories. Two giants may be coming back together. So we've heard on and off for over a year now that CBS and Viacom were talking about merging. We've talked about this. Now we have a report that basically says, according to Reuters, talks are scheduled to be held this month now in June between CBS and Viacom for a possible merger. Now, again, like last week, this does not mean the merger is going to happen. Talks can fall apart. We'll see. But all signs are pointing to this is a serious conversation, that people are seriously considering this merger to bring the two companies together. Of course, they were once one company until 2006, where they split as the companies were growing. There is still a central family controlling both. The Redstone family has a majority control of both companies, and they behind the scenes have been pushing a lot of levers to put people on the board of CBS and other places that would, according to reports, be more favorable. I believe 6 different board members have been replaced at CBS, and the chief executive at CBS has left. According to reports, these were some of the people who were most opposed to the Viacom merger. Of course, that's all rumors, but we can confirm the CBS headquarters or chief CEO, whatever you want to call him, is gone, and 6 board members are now gone. So I'm very interested to see what happens here. This could mean Pluto TV is a CBS-owned product here in a few years.
Oh, true.
We'll see what happens. Anything you want to add to that?
Well, my only question with this, and this is something that I think some readers will be interested in, what would that mean for Viacom channels on other streaming services? Would that affect anything?
They have contracts. Those contracts have to be honored. And to be honest with you, Viacom is not on a ton of services, but CBS at this moment can't make enough money just being CBS. They've been very happy to put their CBS Sports and CBS Locals, etc., on other networks out there right now. So you see them on PlayStation Vue and Sling TV and others out there. So I would say it's not likely. Actually, I don't know if it's on Sling TV, but you get the idea. I would expect that to continue, because why take a very small piece of the pie? We've seen that when Viacom channels left PlayStation Vue, not that many people canceled PlayStation Vue. Sorry, yeah. Viacom, love you, but not that many people went running when you dropped Hulu and PlayStation Vue. So, any last thoughts on that?
No, not really. I think I'm more interested to see what happens when these talks actually start happening. It's all kind of speculation right now. And,
that's the tough thing with these, is we're probably not going to hear much other than backroom leaks. Remember when Google bought YouTube, it happened at a Denny's restaurant in the middle of the night.
Love that.
Google's executives met with the founders of YouTube at a Denny's, and they were like, "Hey, we want to buy you," and YouTube said, "Sold."
Perfect. Let's get some pancakes.
I'm sure it was a 15 to 20 minute conversation, longer than that, but in reality, these things can often be very hidden. I heard reports that when the Viacom AT&T negotiations happened, they happened at a hotel in Phoenix. They just kind of both met at a hotel in Phoenix for a fun time to knock out. I'm kind of surprised it wasn't Las Vegas. I've heard rumors that a lot of these, for some reason, happened in Las Vegas too. So I was imagine they're at the blackjack tables or the poker tables, and they're just kind of like, so, if you give us a 1% price increase, we'll throw in this additional channel, and let's go that way. So we'll wait and see what happens here. All right, YouTube. Last story of the day before we get into some other topics. YouTube TV subscribers who use iTunes are paying $5 more a month than paying directly. Now, I know that there has been a higher fee on YouTube if you pay through DirecTV or you pay for it through iTunes. And I think other services have done this too, but others have decided not to go through iTunes. And I wanted to throw this out there because there has been a big move for Apple TV to manage your subscriptions through there, through Amazon channels and other places. Many of them still charge the same amount. Amazon channels, I think, pretty much is the same amount. You sometimes, though, lose the ability to take advantage of sales if you go through Amazon channels. Yep. But I wanted to encourage people to really reevaluate where they're paying. Yeah, there is a ease of using iTunes, but is it worth $5 a month just to have the payment go through iTunes versus having the payment go through Google directly? $5 a month is most of a Hulu subscription right there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not exclusive to Apple, but Apple reportedly has some of the most strict, aggressive cuts. So basically, when you subscribe through Apple takes a 30% cut, Jess, I think it is.
I think that's what it is. I was shocked about how high it was when we were talking about it.
So just because you're paying through Apple gets 30% of whatever iTunes is making on that. So I would strongly encourage people to evaluate across the board where they're paying and how they're paying for these services, because it's very likely you're overpaying and not even realizing it.
Yeah, I have a couple of comments about this. So first of all, Apple, I love you. If you're listening, so sorry. But to everyone listening, don't go through Apple unless you're really committed to it, because you're essentially wasting money. But the other thing is, I've talked a couple of our readers through this on the Facebook page. If you're posting about this, I'm trying to catch all of those comments, but there's a ton of comments, so it's hard to do that. But some people are having trouble because they aren't understanding how to make the switch from subscribing through iTunes to subscribing directly through YouTube TV. And the problem that some people have been running into is that whenever they're trying to make that switch on an Apple device like an iPhone or an iPad, they aren't able to do it. They're only able to go through Apple to do it. So what I've been walking people through is the process of canceling your subscription through your Apple device or whatever, and then signing up again through your computer. That's been working out for most people, I think, and we've been able to help people save a little money there.
That would be my recommendation. Minor hassle, but hey, if you have Hulu, basically you're going to start getting Hulu almost for free, for 99 cents a month. Is it worth it for that? I would say it is. It doesn't take that much time. It's not like you have to do it every month. You should make this change one time, and then you're good to go.
Yep.
So, and again, it's not exclusive to iTunes, but with the YouTube TV price hike and the emails going out last week notifying people that was coming to iTunes, it's a good moment to remind people of this kind of stuff. Yeah, and I get it. A lot of people email us like, I knew that. I had this forever. There's like 16,000 new cord cutters every single day who probably aren't aware of that because they haven't done it. They're just cord cutters as of today. So we write a lot of stuff to make sure that everybody, not just the super users, are aware of it.
Yeah, and if you're having any issues, go ahead and email us through the website or directly, either way, and we can hopefully help you out.
Perfect. All right. We have some questions that we asked for questions from the Facebook group. Facebook.com/cord cutting tech support, if I remember right, or just search for cord cutting tech support over on the cord cutters new or Facebook search box. Yeah. That's what I'm meaning to say. Jess, you picked out a question from that reply there?
I did. There were a couple of good questions. Thank you for everyone that commented. That was fun to read through questions that you have, and we can try to answer some more on the Facebook page. One question is from Michael. Michael says, I know Disney Plus is coming in the near future. Any other streaming services coming out this year or next?
There are quite a few. Viacom is rumored to have some kind of, it sounds like almost an add-on to Pluto TV to get additional content. AT&T's got one that is, we talked about earlier. Is it in trouble? What's happening with it? It's going to take all the Time Warner content, bundle it together, supposedly with HBO content into a single package. Again, though, are they going to be able to charge that $15 with Disney Plus being at $6.99? Are they going to have to come down in price? Is that going to affect what they want to do with it? There's already been rumors that they were going to do 3 different tiers, that they may be going down to a single tier to respond to the changing environment. NBC has a new service coming out that's ad supported next year. In 2020, they're kind of locked into a contract with Hulu that will prevent them from doing it this year and more. So we'll have to keep a close eye on all this because there's a lot happening right now in the world of cord cutting and streaming services. But did I miss any of the big ones?
Those are the big ones that I was thinking of too. So which one are you most excited for?
Disney Plus, hands down. My daughter absolutely loves Disney. And we keep renting their movies, and I bet we pay $6 a month in renting or buying their movies on Amazon. Yeah. What about you, Jess?
I would have to agree. Disney Plus, I'm super excited, especially for all of the Marvel content. I'm kind of a comic book nerd, so pretty excited about that one.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. Disney has a special relationship that not NBC. NBC doesn't have it. Time Warner doesn't have it. AT&T definitely doesn't have it. Viacom, guess what? You don't have that special relationship. So of all the companies that could justify launching their own standalone service, it's Disney. Yeah. I don't think all these services will survive.
I agree, but I think that Disney has, first of all, given us the most information, so they've given us a reason to kind of build up the hype, and I think that that's huge for them. People are just talking about it so much more.
Yeah. So let's keep moving. Let's keep a close eye on this, but if you got a question, check back next week Sunday. I'll probably, maybe 2 weeks, because we're not going to have a podcast next week, folks. Just FYI. Summer break, we'll call this, for a 1 week break, and we'll be right back the week after that, but no podcast next week. So 2 Sundays from now, check out the group. Make sure you remember, we'll post a question asking for questions from everybody that we'll answer here. And we may even stock some up and answer them during the weekly cord cutting Q&A there definitely. Too. All right, let's dive into recommendations. Anything you want to recommend people check out this week, Jess?
Yeah, if anyone follows me on Twitter, I've been talking about this movie nonstop this weekend. It's a new romantic comedy on Netflix called Always Be My Maybe. Ali Wong is the star of it, and it was just such a good movie. For anyone that's a fan of rom-coms like me, it was the perfect one. It was very cheesy, but still funny, and just a really good movie.
I'm going to throw out a classic. The King of the Hill is on Hulu. If anybody remembers the massive outrage a few years ago when King of the Hill left Netflix, well, it's now on Hulu. And you can watch all the seasons, and it's amazing. Absolutely love it. A lot of fun. Always enjoyed that show. And so there was rumors that King of the Hill were going to come back. That Fox publicly commented that they were in conversations with Mike Judge, I hope I pronounced that right, who was the creator of King of the Hill, creator of Beavis and Butthead, creator of Office Space, about bringing back King of the Hill. That didn't go anywhere. At Corner Reports, he was kind of like, I got many shows going right now. I got the new at the time it was new Silicon Valley on HBO. Well, we just heard that the season they're filming, I guess right about now for Silicon Valley, will be its last.
Yeah, and it's a shortened season too.
Yeah, which I'm a little sad it's a shortened season, but I am kind of happy to see this coming to a close because it did feel like we're dragging the show on a little bit more than it needed to. I've actually really enjoyed that show.
Yeah, me too.
But does that mean he's going to have time for a King of the Hill reboot? Disney now owns it, though. It's still strange to think that, all these Fox shows, including King of the Hill, are now owned by Disney. So maybe we'll get, and it seems like a good fit for Disney to bring back a King of the Hill.
Yeah, they made a big deal about The Simpsons at their event, if you remember. March at the end, that was funny. They might have a good little category there if they did some, more grown-up cartoons.
Well, the thing about King of the Hill is it's a grown-up cartoon that's, kind of a family-friendly grown-up cartoon.
Yeah, definitely.
Sense. Where, I could watch that with my daughter and not feel like, there are a lot of adult things in there, but they do it very tastefully where it kind of slips past people a little bit.
Where you don't have to answer any very uncomfortable questions.
Versus watching Family Guy or The Simpsons. Yeah. So I would love to see it. Here's a left ball question I didn't tell you was coming. So Disney owns all these Fox properties, and what's interesting is The Simpsons is now in Universal, so Simpsons isn't available for this question. It's interesting that Disney doesn't have control of the Simpsons amusement park area at Universal. Mm-hmm. What Fox property would you like to see at Disney World or Disneyland?
Oh.
What would fit in? Ooh. I never thought Star Wars would be at Disney, but it's there.
Yeah, and they just came out with the
Star Wars Land or Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah, Galaxy's Edge. That's what it was. Good question. I don't know. I'll have to think about this one. I don't have an answer for you. I'm sorry.
King of the Hill kind of feels like it would work there.
That might be cool. I feel like they could do a lot with it. I think it would be very easy for them to set it up. I'm just picturing in my head, with the guys hanging out outside, putting up the fence and everything. I feel like they could easily do something with that. I
could see it as a Hollywood studio kind of thing at Disney.
Oh, yeah.
I could also see them doing think of back catalog, a Cheers bar at Disney.
Oh, how cool would that be?
Yeah. So it seems like, man, Disney, the Wonder Years, all these huge back catalogs.
Completely forgot about some of that stuff. Yeah, if they did sort of like, they could even do like a whole throwback park. Hire me. I'll design it for you, Disney.
There you go. You have a Cheers bar.
Yeah.
You could have the Wonder Years in there.
The living room setup.
Yeah. And just go on and on from there. And then King of the Hill and all that kind of stuff thrown in. I'm trying to think of some of the other classic like Sunday night shows.
Yeah, like from the 80s.
You got American Dad, which is, I guess, now TBS. Family Guy and Simpsons, I can't imagine going into the actual Disney parks. But they used to have an alien ride in Disney World, which was always weird.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It'll be interesting. So if anybody who's listening has a fit of a Fox property that could go into Disney World, just kind of a fun question of the day. Leave us a comment. Let us know. I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, I'll report back with my thoughts about that after I think it over a little more.
Yeah, I just was kind of thinking about that with King of the Hill. It just seems like a good fit there.
Yeah, they could really do some cool things with that.
All right, so that's the show today. Again, if you're looking for Apple Press, the WWDC, if I remember right, keynote, we will have already posted live coverage over at corecarsnews.com, link in the show notes down below. And on our YouTube channel, I'll be posting my full thoughts about it on the Tuesday Core Cutting Today video. So check that out, and I'll probably put a link to that video in the show notes down below. So I hope everybody has a fantastic week. Enjoy your June vacation. I will be posting. I'm going to try to do the daily core cutting updates and weekly, but due to travel, it's just going to be easier to skip 1 week of the podcast. So check back the following week for us back new and improved and hopefully refreshed. So I hope everybody has a great week. Take care, everybody.
Bye.